28th, 2021. Mrs. Smith, may we please have a roll call?
Yes, please. Yes, you can. Mr. Rich?
Here.
Ms. Heinrich?
Here.
Dr. Blau?
Here.
Ms. Fox?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
I myself here, and Ms. Weems.
I am here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you so much. We will now move to the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Delgado, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will now move to items from the president. We need a motion to approve the agenda. Mr. Rich.
Thank you. I move that we approve the agenda for today, September 28th, 2021, as presented.
Support.
Motion to approve the agenda made by Mr. Rich, supported by Mrs. Smith. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Very good, thank you. We'll now move to announcements. Welcome again to the September 28th Farmington Board of Education regular meeting. Farmington Public Schools has a vision for high achievement for all of its students. Together with our community, we will engage every student in a quality learning experience, empowering each student to become a thoughtful, contributing citizen in a changing world. Please remember to silence all cell phones and electronic devices at this time. In addition, out of courtesy to those in the audience, we ask that you refrain from sidebar conversations and that you step out in the hallway if you feel the need to carry on a conversation. We thank you for your cooperation. For the safety of those in the room that are immunocompromised and to align with the Oakland County masking requirement for staff and students, we ask that all community members wear a mask. If you choose not to wear a mask, we have a room set up down the hall with a large screen TV that will stream this meeting. If you wish to express a public comment, you may return to this room at that time and express your public comment and then return to the viewing room. Public comment request cards are available in the back of the room and are also available in the viewing room. If you would like to speak during public comment, please fill out a card and place it in the ceramic vault next to Mrs. Buckley. Public comments will be shared after discussion items. This will be the opportunity to share general comments. If the public comment is intended to be critical of or express dissatisfaction with a particular staff member, student, or group, you are encouraged not to identify the person by name. You may request a private meeting with district representatives or utilize the complaint process found in our policy manual and administrative regulations manual. This provides for resolution at the complainant's closest point of origin. Generally, board members and the superintendent will not respond to public comments during the board meeting. Issues may be referred to the superintendent for investigation, study, and/or a response. Thank you very much. We will now move to a discussion related to board goals. At the last few meetings, we've had a retreat a few weeks ago. I believe that was on September 11th, where we discussed our goals, our goal-setting process. We talked about the goals that we set for ourselves last year, this past school year, for the period January through June. Just as a reminder, those goals were to build board unity. We looked at those success factors, including modeling good behavior and educating ourselves, and we found that we met our goal. We said that we would develop and conduct a superintendent search and transition plan. We achieved that goal. We said we would focus on student achievement, improving community relations, responding to and being proactive related to the 2021 learning plan, and we would ensure resources were aligned to district and board priorities. Went through a process of looking at what we identified early on in the year in January at what success factors would look like and what the proposed measurements would be. We had some pretty smart goals, and we were very happy to report that we had achieved those goals, and now we're in the process of developing goals for this next school year. So during our retreat, September 11th, we talked about the goal-setting process. We had MASB come in, the Michigan Association of School Boards, come in to facilitate that process. Thank you all for participating in that. We had a subsequent committee meeting to talk about and to further develop our goals, and we've sort of landed on 4 goal areas. Thank you, Dr. Blau, for summarizing that for us. Thank you so much. I made some copies for each of you.
I just pulled it up. Okay.
Would I passing those down? Got enough?
Thank you so much.
Very good. So as a reminder, and just for folks who are listening in, at the board meeting, each meeting, we're going to review our progress on the goals, the same way we did this past year. So when we established our goals in January, we are very committed to progress, and we said that we weren't going to just develop goals and then, never look at them again. We revisited our goals and talked about what we were doing to progress on our goals at every meeting. And we'll do that again this year with your permission. So we will be monitoring ourselves around board education. We said that we want to be a certified board by the end of the year. We want to make sure that everyone is trained in the MASB Superintendent Evaluation Tool by November. We want to improve data literacy, and we're going to devote an hour at each of our quarterly retreats to that goal, to further educating ourselves. We're going to participate in the 21-day equity challenge. We're going to complete DEI training, and we're going to develop a new board member onboarding process. Oh, thank you so much. The second board goal is to explore innovation. We're going to form a legislative committee by the end of the year. We're going to have our legislators present to the board at least once a year. We're going to further develop relationships with other local area school boards and attend at least 10 meetings or events during the year to network and learn more about what our surrounding area and other school districts across Michigan and the nation are doing. And we're going to increase student voice. Our third board goal is around executing on our vision and strategy. We're going to participate in a significant number of strategic planning committees over the course of the year. We have our assignments that we established at our last meeting. We're going to have the Policy and Board Governance Committee develop a plan to align our policies with our DEI objectives. And then our fourth goal is around community engagement. And this was important to us during our past year and continues to be important to us. We have formed a communications and community engagement committee, and that committee is charged with developing a plan. And then we will have various board engagements where board members will commit personally to participating in a certain number of events and bond work and staff meet and greets over the course of the year. So thank you guys for helping to put this together. I'm glad that we have some measurement tools and some dates to hold ourselves accountable. And as I said, at every meeting, we'll be revisiting these and making sure that we're furthering and advancing on these goals. Any discussion related to that before we move on? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to items from the secretary. Mrs. Smith.
Board has received communications regarding board goals and the equity audit. Communications are acknowledged, and when appropriate, a response is provided. A list of correspondence can be found in the board packet, which is available on the Farmington Public School website.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. We will now move to the legislative update. Dr. Blau.
Yes, there is nothing to report at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Blau. We will now move to district updates. Dr. Delgado.
Thank you, President Williams, and good evening, everyone. So first of all, I am very, very excited and pleased for this board and the board goals that you selected, and I'm very excited to work alongside of you. I think that they're wonderfully smart goals, very intentionally created, and very realistic and ambitious for this school year. So just wanted to commend the board on that wonderful work. So since our last board meeting, we've had a few things going on in the district. We had a wonderful opportunity to host the National Education Association President, Dr. Becky Pringle, as well as the Michigan Education Association President, Paula Herbart, to visit Warner Middle School. They came as part of a nationwide tour with President Becky Pringle, Dr. Pringle, in part for schools who are participating in what's called the ELP, or Educators Leading the Profession program. Farmington is a pilot of that, and it really is about teacher leadership and kind of grassroots efforts to encourage more really leaderful schools with teachers that are really driving innovative practices. So I want to thank Chris Dianchi and Lori Tunick for helping to organize that. And then big thanks to Warner Principal Kelly Kaminsky, to her staff, and most importantly to the wonderful students who led these union officials, these union presidents around, and showed them the wonderful things going on at Warner Middle School. I also, last week, was fortunate to attend the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators Conference, the MESA Conference, and among many people and many sessions, I was able to hear from Dr. Michael Rice, the Superintendent of the State of Michigan, as well as Cindy Martin, who's the Deputy Secretary of Education of the United States. Both of them shared ideas about prioritizing early childhood literacy. Dr. Rice mentioned $168 million in the new state budget for early childhood literacy. That's near and dear to my heart as well, and a priority that we're pleased to see Michigan is trying to lead on. And they also talked about teacher shortages and teacher shortages around the country. Michigan specifically has a program called the Welcome Back Proud Michigan Educator, where they're looking at certified teachers who maybe their certification has lapsed and ways to get them back in the classroom sooner rather than later to help with that teacher shortage and get that real experience back in our classrooms. So very excited to hear from those folks, as well as attended several sessions over 2.5 days on data literacy, which is one of the board's goals, on safety and security, on marketing, and looking at kind of branding the district, embedded professional development for our teachers that aligns with the Educators Leading the Profession program, and a wonderful session that our very own Dr. Kelly Coffin was able to present with other educators around the state of Michigan on innovation. So all of this aligns directly with our strategic plan and with what the board goals are. So thank you for allowing me to attend that. That was very, very helpful. I also had the chance to present to the PTA Council, so I want to thank Beth Hewlett and her team for laying out their wonderful goals and vision for the school year. And at that meeting, 3 of our principals reported out on the first weeks of school. So I want to thank Steve Versalino from Forest, Ken Sanders from East, and then Joe Green from North as the high school representative. They really shared with the PTA Council the experience of students and staff in these first weeks of school, and a real focus on the social emotional well-being of our children, and how they, despite challenges with kind of the mask situation and not being as normal as they wanted it to be, that they are really thriving. They're not just surviving, but they're thriving. And so it was wonderful to hear those helpful comments from our principals. And with that, just a brief word on COVID. Every week, all of the Oakland County superintendents meet with the Oakland County Health Department. I had that meeting today at 3 o'clock, and we meet with their epidemiologists over Zoom. And they mentioned that although we're still in the red, and actually most, if not all, counties in Michigan are currently in the red, this week's report does show a slight decrease in the percent positive, which is really encouraging. The models from the CDC show a potential dip coming in the next couple of weeks, possibly a 200 case or so decrease. So we are cautiously optimistic. We're hopeful that our mitigation strategies, not only here in the schools, but more importantly, out in the community, the more that we as a community, as a school community, stay vigilant, the sooner that we can get back to what school should be and back to what's normal. Very brief word on a budget deal from a legislation standpoint. The budget deal, Senate Bill 82, there is a clause in there that talks about county health departments not being able to implement mask bans. That has not taken effect, and in several legal opinions, we've understood that it's not enforceable, that the language is not enforceable within this budget deal. So that was confirmed. We asked the Oakland County Health Department if that was their legal understanding. They said yes. So for the foreseeable future, nothing will change in Oakland County or for Farmington with respect to our current transmission level rating. Obviously, if something changes, we will keep everybody apprised of that change. And last but not least, I just want to say Happy Hispanic Heritage Month to everyone in our schools and in our community. It is now in September. It's usually September 15th to October 15th, but we can celebrate it for a month and a half. That's fine with me. We have such rich diversity in our schools, in our school community, and it's wonderful to learn about our fellow community members. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say un saludo muy especial a todos mis hermanos y hermanas hispanos. Gracias por todo lo que han hecho para que este país sea grandioso. And if you took Spanish in class, you'll know that that means thank you for your contributions in making this country the wonderful country that it is. So happy Hispanic Heritage Month, and thank you to the Board of Education.
Amen.
Good, thank you. Seeing no comments, we will move on to reports from board committees. Are there any reports from board committees?
We have a report from the
Okay.
Community Engagement Committee. Good evening, everyone. First, want to say thank you to our board members, Zach Ridge and Angie Smith, Superintendent Delgado, to Diane Bauman for joining me in this work and in this effort to help rebuild trust, increase transparency, and just generate great communication between ourselves and our community. Really appreciate them. And what we're looking to do is, again, try to come up with tools and devices necessary to do what we do and do it as effectively as we can possibly do it. One thing I took from the committee meeting after it was all said and done is we have 3 of the best means of communication already on our committee. One is Diane and the work that she is doing. I'll talk about that in just a moment. The other 2 are our board member, Terry Weems, and our superintendent, Chris Delgado. These are some of the fastest responders to emails I have ever seen in my life. And I say that jokingly, but also seriously, because that's one of the main means of communications our community uses. It has to be a wonderful feeling, even if you're not overly happy about the responses they may give, but the fact that they do respond, they do so incredibly quickly, and it doesn't seem to matter whether it is person out on the street or a board member, the turnaround is absolutely fantastic. So I just want to make sure that credit is given to the 2 of you for that level of work in the midst of all the other work that you do. The committee had a pretty robust agenda. We had about 7 or 8 different items that we went through. I will give just an overview of what we discussed. We talked about our audiences and want to begin to drill down and think more intentionally about who it is that we're trying to reach and how we're trying to reach them. Again, the work that is currently being done. We looked at past and current communication tools, and this is something that I'd like to lift up a little more regularly at our board meetings to remind people, going back to Diane, of the amount of tools we have to communicate. There's not a device I can think of that is not formed in the communication wheel, which is found on the website. And I say that because we may get locked into a certain way of connecting to the district and miss out on some really great information that might be communicated in a different way or with a different level of frequency that might be advantageous to a community member. So I'd like to try and lift that up from time to time between now and the end of the school year. Our superintendent also is open. I think he was the kid who, if you dared him to do anything, he went on and said yes, because he is open to the idea of doing a podcast for the district as well. So again, increasing means of feedback and explaining things and sharing ideas with the community. So we'll have some recommendations in the not too distant future. We talked about how to obtain better feedback from the community, and I invite the community to offer their suggestions to email to myself or to the superintendent so that we can continue to think out of the box in that area. We talked about our outreach and connection to other organizations, and again, I want to commend Diane Bauman and Superintendent Delgado for the work that they've done, he's done in a short time, the work that she has done over the years, in connecting to all of the different pods that exist in our community. The fact, and it was reiterated, which ties directly into our board goal number 4, that we as board members will continue our commitment to be at these events, which increases community engagement and intensifies communication in the best possible way. One of the other areas that we spoke very passionately about was the ways to increase student voice. We talked about adding a student to the school board here. That is something that we will continue to discuss, work out the logistics of, and see if it's something feasible for us to do within our district. But we came up also with the idea and thoughts of increasing student presentations. We have a number of wonderful student groups that focus in a number of different areas, and we don't want their work and accomplishments to be siloed. We want to lift it up, and this is a great format in which to do it. So we're looking to maybe bring that online as well. And in getting back, and that speaks to board goal number 2 with respect to innovation. And closing out my report, going back to board goal number 4, community engagement. One of the goals when the agenda was created was to come up with an event where there would be community engagement in October. Again, our superintendent, who you cannot catch, he's always about a step and a half in front of you. He already had planned the I shouldn't say reinstatement, but developing his version of a superintendent coffee and conversations, which we also looked at reinstating board members Angie Smith's coffee and conversations as well. So between the two of those mechanisms, I think that'll be a wonderful restart to getting out into the community and getting those touch points there. And right now, we're targeting the month of October at the Hawk for the first superintendent community coffee and conversation time to be determined. And as soon as we get that, we'll put that forth. So it was a wonderful first meeting. Thank you, Kim Buckley, as always, for just being the rock of our meetings along the way. And that's all I have.
Thank you so much for that very comprehensive report. Any comments, discussion items? All right. We can move forward to discussion items, and seeing that we don't have any discussion items, we can move on to item number 8, which is public comment. If there's anyone who is interested in public comment, the public comment cards are on the table over there. Thank you, Mrs. Buckley. I assume she's checking our overflow room. As a reminder, we have 3 minutes for public comment. Mrs. Smith, would you mind doing our timekeeping? And just to be fair, we give everyone 3 minutes. You will get an indication as to when your time period is coming up. We have Mr., I think this is David Villar, and then that's followed by Mr. Bill Lovaway. Welcome. Yes, sir. On, please. Thank you.
First of all, I want to say, President very professional.
Let's just pause the time.
There you go. Thank you. So I was quite upset that at some of the, or he said the last meeting, some of the public comments were stating falsehoods about the value of using the masks and of the transmission of COVID-19. I'm not sure what I can do as an individual to support what you guys are doing to maintain the protection that my child needs in the school system. For instance, I did not even have him attend today because he was sick, and I wanted to make extra care that he not infect other students. He does not have COVID, but that's the level of quality that we need to have as citizens here. So I want to do my part to support what you guys are doing to keep that going. But in those meetings, it kind of gave me pause, because some of the other issues that are going on have to do with some of the social issues that are going around the country. Growing up in Detroit, I felt more or less protected from some of those more dramatic issues that occur elsewhere, but it seems that some of that is creeping into this district, and it concerns me. Some of the issues about race and ethnicity, some of the issues about history and so on and so forth. I'm sure you are all aware of the detrimental types of ideologies that are out there. And I'm trying to use my words carefully as to not politicize this conversation. But whatever I can do as a citizen to protect our students from being taught falsehoods, I just want to let you know I'm on board. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Mr. Lovaway,
Good afternoon. I'm back on the critical race theory, and I'd like to say that the Farmington schools ought to focus on educating students and not the critical race theory. And in the summer of 2020, this board slandered our Farmington community in their proclamation that said that we were racist. There's no way to hide that. I was upset at the time, and by the way, I'm still upset. Starting in June 2020, I wrote the board and I wrote to the candidates, every one of you, to describe my objections, the unconstitutional wording, and suggested fixes. Talk hasn't accomplished anything since then, so here's what I plan to do. I'm going to explain to the community that the proclamation enacts segregation. I'm going to find a way to piggyback on lawsuits to get rid of the unconstitutional issues, and then I'm going to enlist community support to take back Farmington Public Schools. Yeah, that will happen. So what I had handed out for you was a paper that I couldn't get through in this time, so I figured it would be better if you had it in writing. And I wanted to say that critical race theory posits that every inequity suffered by blacks is caused by institutional and structural racism, that they have no power to liberate themselves, and that they will remain oppressed until white people change. And at Farmington's high schools, African-American student performance on state tests fell 25 percentage points below average. So why is the board expending any time and money on CRT? Got to change your course. And moving on, there's a couple of points that I wanted to make. In the package that you have, I put down, here's what the board said in its proclamation, and then from my readings, what CRT says, and then finally, an analysis, my analysis and analysis I picked up from others. One of the things that bothers me particularly is the statement that it's imperative to be anti-racist, and I really don't think this board understands what this means, but this is what CRT says. The only remedy to present discrimination is future discrimination. You adopted that as a policy? Anyways, I think our Constitution doesn't like that. Second area of concern was equity, which is all over our strategic planning process. And your definition of equity is discriminate against whites to produce equal outcomes. That's CRT. Equality means equal opportunity under the law.
Thank you, Mr. Lebowitz. Is there any more public comment? Please? Yes, thank you, Mrs. Buckley. We're going to just check one more time. In the meantime, we do not normally respond to public comment, but given some of the comments I heard, I do want to make sure that I am addressing inaccuracies. I'd like to address how we educate our students to be lifelong learners. First, to be clear, we want you to know that Farmington Public Schools opposes racism as outlined in our school board proclamation. We are not calling anyone racist. Critical race theory is not a component of our curriculum. We are, however, committed as a district to working around cultural proficiency, diversity, equity, inclusion, social emotional learning, and creating a safe and brave space for all groups and individuals. It's imperative to us that every single person feels a sense of belonging in our schools. Our DEI work is not exclusively about race. Critical race theory is defined as an academic movement of civil rights scholars and activists in the United States who seek to critically examine the law as it intersects with issues of race and challenge mainstream approaches to racial justice. Critical race theory examines social, cultural, and legal issues as it relates to race and racism. It's typically taught in graduate level academia as the concept arose at Harvard Law and Columbia Law, and typically expands beyond K through 12 curriculum education. We do not have CRT, defined critical race theory, as part of our curriculum. If anyone is interested in learning more about our curriculum, please go to our website. We are and remain committed to moving forward our DEI work. We will be moving that forward, and we'll also be revisiting our proclamation. Thank you for your attention. Are there any more public comments? Seeing no further public comments, I did see someone new walk into the room. If you are interested in public comment, our public comment forms are over to your left. No, your right. And so if you're interested in public comment, this is the time. We are now closing public comment. We are now closing public comment. Okay, thank you. We'll now move to action items. The first action item is a recommendation for approval of acting superintendent. Dr. Delgado, would you just walk us through what we're approving here today?
Sure, thank you. And the recommendation for the approval of an acting superintendent, this is an administrative regulation that the board adopted that in the hopefully unlikely event that I am incapacitated or unavailable for a short period of time, it allows for the continuity of administration until such a time that an interim administrator can be selected. And so I'm required by board policy to bring to you a recommendation. I want to say 3 months in, this is challenging for me to do, to think that I wouldn't be here because I want to be here forever. But I have 100% confidence in this entire cabinet that you see out here and what we're doing together in these first 3 months with our leadership team. They are so talented, so skilled, so experienced that any one of them could pick up the reins. And we have a strategic plan we're working on together that makes us interdependent on each other, and collectively we have a vision with our leadership team that regardless of me or any one person, it will move forward because of the structures we're implementing. So with that said, I am bringing a recommendation tonight for Dr. Kelly Coffin to pick up the reins should I have to step back. I want to thank publicly again Dr. Goodrum, who did just a stellar job for 6 months in the interim role, and now she is fully focused finally on her DEI work, which she only had about 3 months to do. So we're really excited for her to be able to just focus on that. She did her time, so I won't do that to her again. But I know that Dr. Coffin and her team would be able to pick up that, of course, with the wonderful support of this entire cabinet and our entire administrative team. So that's my recommendation I bring to you tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Delgado. Mrs. Smith, do you have a recommendation?
I am solely, what, you mean a motion?
Yes, a motion, I'm sorry.
Okay. I move that the Board of Education approve Kelly Coffin, Assistant Superintendent for Innovation and Strategic Initiatives, to act as superintendent in the case of a short-term absence per administrative regulation 4007-AR.
There's a motion to approve Dr. Coffin as who is currently Assistant Superintendent, to act as superintendent in the case of a short-term absence per our administrative regulations, supported by Mr. Walker. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Smith.
I think that Dr. Delgado has made a wonderful selection. Dr. Coffin has come into this community. She has shown that during the COVID, her and her team at the time with Dr. Goodrum could take and run this district better than any other district that I have ever seen. Dr. Coffin, also like Dr. Delgado, if an email goes out before I can actually push the send button, she has responded. I think she would be able to work collaboratively with our board, and I think she could keep that seat hot until Dr. Delgado comes back. So I am proud to say I support this with 100%.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Seeing no further comments, we will have a vote. All in favor? Aye. Do we need to do a roll call?
Oh, we need to do a roll?
Yes, let's do a roll call. Mrs. Smith?
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mrs. Heinrich?
Yes.
Dr. Blau?
Yes.
Mrs. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
I myself, yes. Mrs. Weems,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you, motion passes. I agree with everything that you said, Mrs. Smith. I am very grateful to our entire cabinet. I think that you guys are a great team. I think we are all a great team. That's definitely been demonstrated over the course of this year. So thank you very much. And so congratulations and congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right, we will now move to our next action item, which is review and approval of Form L4029, Hold Harmless Millage Rate Revision. Yes, Mrs. Heinrich.
Is Dr. Delgado going to give an
Oh, do we-
introduction, and then we'll do the motion?
Do we have a presentation first?
Nope, there's no presentation, just going to walk through this real quick with you.
I'm sorry, so thank you. Do you want to walk us through what we're voting on? Or we know what
Yes.
we're voting on, maybe so the public knows.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I.
Yes.
Yes, I had asked.
Yeah, if that's okay.
Yes, thank you.
I'm going to be hopefully simple so that it's easily understood. But this is the first time I've actually had to bring a revision of our L4029, which is our tax rate request, mid-year. So typically, you'll see this in June, and it's where we set all of our millage rates for the year. So this year, of course, being a different year, the state, the governor and the legislature approved the budget in July. And as part of that budget package, the governor and the legislature approved to fund all districts at a base foundation or a target foundation of $8,700. So in order to keep Farmington in line with our approved foundation allowance, we are required to reduce our hold harmless millage. And the hold harmless millage is the amount that we levy on our residential taxpayers. And that was a function of Proposal A back in 1994. So in the past, we've been able to levy $2,067 per pupil. That is now down to $1,876 per pupil. And so what that essentially is doing is shifting that tax amount from our residential taxpayers, and the state is paying that amount going forward. So it does require us to revise our L4029. It is a reduction in taxes for our residential customers, our taxpayers, and that change or adjustment will need to be done in our December 1st levy. We typically levy 50-50, but because we've already levied half of the original amount, this amount in December will be less. So really just a few numbers revised on this form. It needs to be approved by September 30th and sent out to all of the municipalities so that they have enough time to issue correct tax statements in December. I can answer any questions you might have.
Any questions from board members? Are we ready to entertain a motion?
Okay.
Mrs. Heinrich?
All right. I move that the Board of Education approve the revised Form L4029 tax rate request for all properties, which results in a revised rate of 9.4482 mils on homesteads and industrial personal property and 15.2482 mils on commercial property, personal property, at the same rate of 21.2000 mils on non-homesteads.
Support.
Motion made by Mrs. Heinrich, supported by Mr. Walker. You were a bit louder, Mr. Walker. To approve the revised form tax rate, which results in a revised rate for homestead and industrial personal property and on commercial personal property. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote, Mrs. Smith?
Yes. Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mrs. Fox,
Yes.
Dr. Blau,
Yes.
Mrs. Heinrich,
Yes.
Mr. Rich.
Yes.
I myself, yes. Ms. Weems,
Yes,
motion passes.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will now hear from our treasurer.
Okay. We have expenditures. And so I move that the Board of Education approve the expenditures as outlined in the expenditure printout dated September 28th, 2021 as follows. General Fund, $10,691,257. General Fund Athletics, $63,791. Debt Fund, 0. Capital Projects, 2015 Bond Fund, 0. Capital Projects 2018 Bond Fund, $97,044. Capital Projects 2020 Bond Fund, $3,302,468. Nutrition Services Fund, $199,368. Benefits Stabilization Fund, $1,478,290 for a total of $15,832,218.
Support.
Motion made by Mrs. Heinrich, supported by Mrs. Smith, to approve our expenditures. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Very good. Next, we have our consent agenda. Mr. Rich.
Thank you. I move that the Board of Education approve the August 17th, 2021 consent agenda as follows. Hang on. That is interestingly written. I'm sorry. I move that the Board of Education approve the September 28th, 2021 consent agenda as follows. That is the the approval of minutes, September 14th, 2021 committee meeting, 2, September 14th, 2021 regular meeting, B, the Head Start Director's monthly report, and C, personnel items.
Support.
Motion made by Mr. Rich, supported by Mrs. Smith, to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Do we have any reports from board representatives? Mrs. Smith?
I was able to meet with the early childhood director today and just find out what my role is as a board member and hear that I will be having a report at least once a month. And she will be sending that information over to me. And just pretty much what my role is as a board member. I would pretty much be a liaison, and there will be parents there at meetings when the time comes. I didn't know how in-depth it was to be with our early childhood program with the federal funding and everything, so I'm going to keep up on the information with that and keep you, the rest of the board, as well as the superintendent, assistant superintendent, involved in the conversations that we'll have.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. I am the liaison for the PTA, and I was unfortunately unable to attend this, not yesterday, but the week before, the past Monday meeting. But I have a great team. And when I communicated that I was unable to attend at the last minute, 3 to 4 board members raised their hand and said that they would like to attend. And 2 were able to accommodate and change their schedule. So I want to thank Dr. Blau and Mr. Walker for doing that. I got great feedback. The PTA was really, really happy and excited to learn that there were board members that were very interested in further developing our relationship. So thank you for that. And if there are any nuggets coming out of that, please feel free to share. I think we usually talk about what's going on with each of the schools, and there's like a round robin. So that happens, I think it's at least quarterly. And so to the extent that you're interested in attending those again, it's not exclusive. You guys are more than welcome, so thank you.
I really, really enjoyed hearing about all the different kinds of things that our PTA are involved in, and I would really love to participate in future meetings.
Great, thank you.
Same, the strength and the involvement of the PTA in all of our schools and in the community at large it just really underscored the fact that we are where we are, and we're going to go where we're going to go because we're going to do it together. And they did a wonderful job of demonstrating that with the work that they are doing, and they have done and are doing.
Right, and they're all wonderful, and especially, you know, our Farmington High School and STEAM Academy were recently recognized, right?
Right.
I think it was our last board meeting where they were recognized for their great work, so thank you, guys. If there are no other reports, we will move to recommendations for future agenda items. Are there any recommendations for future agenda items? All right, we will move to good and welfare. Is there any good and welfare? Mrs. Smith, and then Dr. Blau.
Again, happy Hispanic Month, and also September was Gay Pride Month as well. I was not able to go down and give hugs as one of the moms this year, but usually I go down and give hugs to those students that have not been accepted and by their parents. So those students do need our support as well, outside of, because that is part of our equity, learning and education too, is to keep all students involved in our working and safe in our schools. So again, happy Hispanic Month. I share that same heritage with Dr. Delgado, as well as reaching out to the LGBTQ community. It's close to my heart with my daughter as well. So that's my good and welfare. And homecoming weekend is this weekend. I was able to go over to North Farmington today and be a lunch lady and wipe down tables and hear a pep talk from Mr. Green, and I'll hear one tomorrow from Mr. Shelton on homecoming weekend. So that's my good and welfare.
Thank you for sharing. Dr. Blau, and then Mr. Rich.
I would just like to highlight some wonderful work that is being done by North Farmington High School senior Alyssa Peak. She has instigated a phenomenal project over at Kenbrook, which was her elementary school. She won an Optimist Club stipend of $250 during the spring. And during the summer, she is the president of the Student Senate and the North Farmington Diversity Club. She raised an additional $4,000 to purchase around 300 books focused on diversity, social justice, and climate change. She cut the ribbon of the Kenbrook Diversity and Social Justice Library on September 23rd. 2021, and I regret that I was unable to attend, but I would love to have Ms. Peaks come and speak to our board about her work and what inspired her and what we can do to continue to support her efforts both at Kenbrook and at other schools in our district. So congratulations to Alyssa Peak on this amazing accomplishment.
Wonderful, thank you for sharing. Mr. Rich?
So I just wanted to thank everyone for all of their hard work and continued hard work. I know we have a lot of things happening in the district right now with homecoming weekend fast approaching. We're almost there. So to all of our students who are celebrating and all that, have fun. Please be safe, make good choices. And so we are looking forward to seeing people at the game. Feel free to come out. We look forward to all the festivities happening.
Very good. Very quickly, I had homecoming on my list too, but my colleagues have already addressed that, but I am excited about football games. I enjoy them thoroughly. I love the band. I love all of the festivities, so I will definitely be partaking in all of that. Want to just echo what Dr. Delgado said about, I think it was a week ago, there's so much going on, but the student leaders at Warner that were able to provide a tour to some of us adults and the MEA and NEA leaders. I was just really amazed at their poise and their confidence and their ability to show us around. It was really a moment of pride for me, and it seemed like for them too. They were really proud of their space, really proud of their building, and I got a lot of really good feedback from some of the adults about what we're doing, so that was really, really great. I want to thank parents and board members, Mrs. Smith, for volunteering. This is a year where we're not able to do it as much as we would like to because obviously of COVID restrictions, but if and where there are opportunities to volunteer in the school, I would implore you to please do so. We are actually short across the nation in terms of help, right? And so I want to thank our administrators, our principals, our vice principals, our teachers, our parapros, our secretaries who are taking their lunch time, taking their break time, taking their study time, their work time to monitor students, to parole the halls, to serve as noon aides, to help with lunch duty and bus duty. I appreciate you. I speak on behalf of the entire board when I say that. And I'd say to community members who have the time and can address, if we can address the COVID restrictions, again, we want to be safe. We need, the more support, the better. One thing I will ask parents to do is to have a conversation with your students. There's a lot of really negative TikTok messages out there that seem to be encouraging students to degrade and ruin other people's property, including school property. It's a thing. It's a big thing. And so please have a conversation with your students about that and make sure that they continue to take pride in their school and encourage that of others as well. So thank you to everyone who is volunteering, who have gone into the schools to help, and thank you to all of our staff who are going above and beyond, who continue to do so as we move into this third year. And I think that's all I had. Is there any more good and welfare? If there is no more good and welfare, we stand adjourned. Thank you.